Welcome to Holding Space with Authentically Amy. This is a place where you don't have to perform, prove, or hold it all together. You're allowed to exhale, to feel, to speak, or just be. Here, your truth is safe, your emotions are honored, and your soul is gently invited to the surface. I'm not here to fix you, because I don't believe you're broken. I believe your soul already knows the way. My role isn't to give you advice, but to hold a steady frequency of love so you have space to rise. This podcast is an extension of my own healing. If you're here, you belong, and I'm honored to sit beside you. Welcome back to another episode of Holding Space with Authentically Amy. I am so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in and for tagging along on all of these episodes. I'm just honored that you are continuing to watch and share and help us get this message out into the world. I'm grateful to have Angela here with us today. Angela, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm real happy to be here.
I'm so glad. I'm honored to have you and eager to know more about you and your story and what you have to share with us today. So, as you know, I start most of my episodes with a statement that I'm here to hold space for you. So, if there is anything that feels heavy on your heart today that would help for me to hold space, then I am here for you. And I want to just turn it over to you to take it from here.
I love that. And thank you. And yeah, it seems like a lot of days I have a heavy heart about people who are grieving in the world. And, I think back to when I lost my husband and how hard that was. And now, even, when I go on social media, I see people who are struggling and not sure where to turn or what to do. And so I guess I have a lot of compassion for those people. And um, I can't help everybody, but it would be nice if I could. And I guess that is heavy on my heart because I know that there's a lot of people out there who don't have access to support and are in, not only grieving, but in financial despair or, have illness that they are dealing with. And so, yeah, that's a tough one.
It is tough. And there's so many different types of grief. When I used to hear the word grief, I associated it with the death of someone or losing a relationship or something that ended like that. I had like just very few instances in mind that were related to grief, but I have learned throughout my journey that there are many different ways that we grieve and situations that cause us to grieve. And I'm sure that you have found that too. Do you mind to talk about that for a minute?
For sure. Yeah. So I was the same. I thought grieving was, when you lost a loved one and that was, you went through this process and it had these stages and you went through it. And that's what we all learned.
Right.
But then I realized as I was learning more about what I was going through that really our whole lives we're always letting go of something because lives are always changing. And so, I think about even when we leave the womb and we're being born, we're changing our place, right? And when we lose our grade 1 teacher and we have to go to the grade 2 teacher or, all of those things cause us to grieve. And not all of them have the intensity. I think that they're different, but the process is the same. We still have to go through that process of letting go of the past and then stepping into something new. So, yeah.
It makes me think, this is a question I have for you because this just came up when you were talking just now that to me, the things that you just mentioned, I see those as transitions, but transitions can also cause us to grieve. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, well, I really see it as a process of letting go. And anytime we have to let go of something, and anytime there's a change, right, that we have to accept. Yeah, there is a process in place, and it's a natural process. I believe it's a God-given process that helps us heal from that. We would not be doing well in the world if we didn't have this healing process that we could go through each time that we have to change. Because even, letting go of a day, we have to start a new day. It's cyclical, right? The seasons are cyclical. All of it is letting go and starting something new.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder because you talked about this a little bit, but we're taught that there is a cycle of grief is that what it's called? There are
Yeah.
phases that you go through of the grief cycle. And, again, I'm just relating that to the loss of a loved one or some kind of huge loss in
Right.
one's life, but I could see where maybe that grief cycle or those phases could be played out in other areas of our life that maybe aren't that big. Do you see that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of times we don't even know that's what's happening.
Yeah.
We don't associate it with that. The stages of grief themselves that we associate with are something that it was research that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did. And
Yes.
it was actually a study of participants that were in hospice. So they were losing their own lives. They were on their way out, right? And so it was a different type of grief. It was letting go of life. And so I see grief a little bit differently being on this end of losing a loved one or losing your financial stability or losing your home, all of those things. But those emotions that she talks about are still at play. And even though, they're not necessarily linear in any way, shape, or form, um, we can expect to feel all of those, some of those, and yeah, it's good to be aware of what that research was and what those stages mean for us as grievers.
I didn't realize that her research was based on the person who was essentially dying.
Yes.
That's right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean
Yeah.
that in my brain changes the whole dynamic because
Hmm.
they know that
Is
they're
it?
dying, they're grieving
Yeah.
themselves.
Yes. It's a different take on it because it's not the same. It's losing your life. But I mean, they're still grieving. They're grieving the life that they were living. And it's almost like an anticipatory grief because you're expecting that you're going to die. And so then it's like that. We talk about anticipatory grief as grief that we know is coming, and we start grieving before it actually happens. And I didn't know that either. I remember when my husband was sick, just clinging on to hope that he would live. And yet I was grieving the person that he was because he changed when he was sick. And also, I was grieving the life that we were living before we had all those worries and concerns. And so that is like an anticipatory grief that a lot of people go through. Yeah.
So interesting to me because, first of all, I don't know how much you know about my story, but I lived 10 years with a broken neck that went undiagnosed for 6 months and lost a year of my kids' lives. I lost my job. I lost my sense of self-worth, almost lost myself in the process. And looking back on it now, I was grieving just like you. I was grieving the former version of myself because I could no longer do anything that that previous version of me could do. I didn't
Mhm.
understand it in the moment that that's what was happening, but I was trying so hard to get back to the person that I was before, and nothing was working. It wasn't happening. And so it sent me through that grief cycle, and I see it now, but I didn't see it then. And I'm just thinking, people are going through, like you said at the beginning, a lot financial. There's so much stress in the world in general today. And it makes me wonder if we started looking at our situation from a lens of grief, if it might help us understand it instead of being bogged down by it and thinking we're a failure and thinking we're just useless or worthless. Do
Mhm.
you think it would change if we looked at our lives through the lens of grief to help us understand it better?
Absolutely. I really think that the root of a lot of issues, physical, mental issues, is grief. Just not understanding that we're in that process and not getting the right support, because it really is just moving through emotion, and the emotions come up at exactly the right time for us in order for us to heal. But often what we do is we just push them away because we don't want to feel angry or sad, or we were raised not to, we were told it's not right to be angry, it's not right to be jealous, and
Right.
so we suppress those things, and then the grieving process can't work. You can't move through it the way you need to when you keep doing that. But we've never been taught how to release them either, so it's just a whole can of worms.
I so agree with what you just said because I say that a lot myself, and I quote Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor's research. I'm sure you're aware of it, of that she says that emotions, when they come to us, that if we allow them to come to us and to serve their purpose, then they dissipate within 90 seconds.
Yeah.
But when we hold on to them and grab onto them or push them away, then they become a hurdle for us to overcome. But if we allow them to come in and serve their purpose, it's literally 90 seconds. And that
Yeah.
just blows my mind. But it's exactly what you said. We're not taught how to do that, or that is right, that is right to allow those emotions to serve their purpose because they are simply a part of our communication system, but we're not taught that.
Yeah. Well, and I think because we suppressed them for so long, and this was my experience, is that I'd been holding on to sadness long before my husband passed, and anger, and all those things. Being a school principal, you don't show emotion,
Right.
or at least you can't be angry or jealous, or, you just got to put on the professional face, right?
Yes.
And I didn't find that place to release it, and so when it did come up, it was like I couldn't control it. So I would start crying at a funeral and just not be able to stop, and it would be like, these huge sobs, and I was scared to start the waterworks, because I thought it might not stop. And it actually felt like it could kill me. Like you feel
Yeah.
like it's
Yes.
just going to take you over and you're never going to recover. And I think in my experience now, just allowing the emotions to come up when they do, it's not like that anymore, because I've been allowing them to come through me when it's time, and I haven't been holding the beach ball underwater. That was what my coach always said. You're holding those emotions under the water, the beach ball under the water. You can only do it for so long, and then it's going to blow up in your face, right? And so then I can see why people are scared. That's why I was scared, because I had so much built up that it was frightening.
Right. And I think, well, from my experience, and I think most people experience this, that when we're suppressing our emotions and we're hiding them, we feel like we're in control. Like we are in
Yeah.
control of whether they surface or not. And when
Right.
we allow that dam to break and it all comes flooding out, it feels totally out of control. Like, I don't know how to stop this. I don't know if it's going to take me down with it, or it's just so unknown to us that you're right, we don't know how to handle it. And I've done a lot of therapy. Like I have two therapists, so I've done a lot of therapy. And even with that, it can be tricky. So
Yeah.
is that something that you have seen or that you can give our audience some tips on how to manage that?
Yeah, for sure. The first thing I would say is, if you're afraid of that emotion coming up, and you not being able to control it, or you feel like it's not going to do go well, to have someone with you when you do that. I had a coach. And so I always knew there was somebody I could reach out to, and I had support people around me so that I knew if things got, that I got feeling like I couldn't handle it, someone would always be there. But once you've gone through that process a few times, you realize that you will come out on the other side okay. And you realize that there are many ways to release. Crying is one, but walks in nature help you release emotion. Just painting, drawing, cooking, all of those things are expressions of our emotion. And we can release by writing, drawing, painting, all there's a whole bunch of different ways. And so we just have to find ways that work for us. Exercising is another one. Just I think a lot of men do that. It's just getting out and allowing your body to move and allowing yourself to feel alive again, right? And often we get into that flow when we're doing something creative, and that allows us to just release things gently. And energy healing. That was the other thing that really helped me a lot.
Oh, me too. I love all of those. I will add two that helped me in addition to all the things that you just said are journaling and coloring. It's a form of drawing, I guess, but there is learning more and more about coloring and about how reflective. Of course, my business is called Polish the Mirror, so it's like a mirror of what you're dealing with inside. Like colors hold a frequency. They have a different frequency. Each color has a different frequency, a different vibration. And so the colors that you're choosing to use are mirroring something inside. There's a way to figure out what it is. But I learned a lot, and I still learn a lot through when I color. And when I used to say to people, I love to color, they're like, you mean like when you were a kid, color, that kind of color? And I'm like, yes, you mean like adult coloring. There's nothing wrong with it. It's very, very healing.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely is. I know when I color with my granddaughter, she always wants me to sit down and color with her. And so I'll start coloring and she'll be off doing something else and I'll still be there.
Right?
Because there's something about it. It feels good to just sit there and color.
It
Yeah.
really does. It's so calming. It helps your nervous system just regulate. It does for me. And, my second book is a reflective coloring workbook that walks you through the self-discovery process. And so readers have told me how healing this has been for them because it forces them to stop and sit down and focus on the questions, the journaling, and the coloring all at the same time. And I'm a big fan of coloring. It has really been life-changing for me. And I think people are afraid to try it because, like I said, they think that's something kids do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I found some good healing through coloring. Sorry, I go off on that tangent there, but
No,
I
no.
love to
I
color.
think it's important. And I think when you bring up, it's what kids did, sometimes we got to think back to when we were kids and what we loved to
Mm,
do then, because those are often the things that will bring us joy now. And it's just kind of looking back and maybe revisiting some of that stuff because we quit doing it because we're busy. We've got jobs, we've got to make money, we have kids, we have families, and we let go of all of that stuff that really helped us in our childhood.
that is such a great point. Such a good point. I just skimmed right over that, but I'm so glad that you brought that up because you're right. Going back, and especially with that inner child, tapping back into that inner child within us who desperately wants our attention, who needs nurturing and love from us. Something as simple as just coloring or something that you did when you were a child can help get in contact with that inner child within you and allow that part of you to surface. So good.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to shift gears for just a second because in part of my story is the grief. It can become overwhelming, and I'm thinking about people who are caretakers, who
Mm,
have people with chronic illness, or people who are, anybody who is a caretaker. I would like to address that because I know a lot of caretakers, and my husband at the time was my caretaker, and he did such a great job taking care of me and lost himself in that because that became his role. And I think that happens a lot with caretakers
Yeah.
that they step into that role because they have to or because they want to, and then that's who they become. But I get to help them realize that they are not that role, that that's just a piece of them and that they are something more than that. But the piece I want to bring up here is there's so much we could go into here, but the piece that keeps coming to my brain right now is how overwhelming it is when you're in grief and when you're a caretaker and how you just can't think straight because you have so many things that you're taking care of. And I just want to offer a suggestion that was helpful in my life when my husband was just overwhelmed. Because people will say to those who are grieving or those who are caretakers, what do you need? How can I help? What do you need?
Mm.
And those people don't know, like they are having to make all of the decisions and they cannot stop and think for another minute to, something else that you're going to make them decide. I didn't know that until he shared that with me after I got well, that that's what caretakers go through. But it is helpful to, when you're expressing your wanting to help a caretaker, to offer something specific, to offer, can I pick up the kids for you from school? Can I come over and do your laundry? Can I bring you dinner? Something specific. Don't just, flat out ask a generic question of what do you need? Ask a more specific question. And he said that was really, really helpful. So I just wanted to put that out there and see what you have to say about that.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think that, I found when I was in the depths of grief, the people that helped me the most were the ones that just came and they, well, for example, one friend came and said, you know what? It was getting close to Christmas. She's like, how about we go for a drive and look at the Christmas lights? And that meant so much to me. It was just like taking my mind away for a little bit, not in a space where I had to be with a bunch of people, but I could look at the lights and I could just relax. And also, with the whole caretaking thing, like I love that you're doing something with this because I remember being in that space and not knowing where to go for support. Like it was, you're not, I wasn't in a space where I had lost my husband. I was in the space where I was looking after him. And even though, there's some similarities there, I just felt like I was left. It was, I didn't know where to go or what to do. And I also didn't think that a counselor could help me. And that's
Mm.
so, I look back on it now and I think, why would you not think that seeing a counselor would have helped you? But I just thought, you know what? I'm in this space where he's really, really sick. And I don't know what somebody could say to me that would make this better. And now looking back, I think, wow, that probably would have been really helpful if I would have talked to somebody about it. But I also didn't know where to turn. So there was that. And so I love these podcasts. I love how people are talking about it more and that there's more people like you out there in the world and accessible now because we have Zoom. So, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can get that support.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think because of my experience with my husband being a caretaker and him sharing his experience with me, I
Mm.
really, really am drawn to helping caretakers because I felt so sad knowing that's what he was going through, but he couldn't tell me at the time because I was fighting to survive,
Yeah.
And so it's these caretakers, they either aren't taking care of themselves because they're busy taking care of someone else or other people. But I just did, matter of fact, the day that we're recording this, I just did a class today for caretakers at the adult wellness and education center where I live. They asked me to come in and do this class to use my reflective coloring workbook for these caretakers to help them understand that caretaking is a role, pretty much what I just said earlier.
Mhm.
And when I said to them today, I said, the thing that I want you to understand, I want to walk away from here knowing that you understand is that caretaking is a role. It's not who you are. And they
Yeah.
all looked at me. Some of them got tears in their eyes because they feel like that's who they have become and they don't know, they can't see beyond it. And so just giving them hope of that's not who I am. It's a role that I'm playing because I'm choosing to. I feel like can be so, so powerful. And I really feel drawn to that. So just throwing that out there, that it can be powerful. Yeah.
So important. And also, those caregivers, if they lose their spouse or lose their parent or whoever they're looking after, because they're so attached to that role, the grief can be really hard because you're feeling not only the loss of the person, but you're feeling the loss of what you were doing, and you almost, like you say, lose yourself in that process because you're so busy and focused on that you forget that you are a person, like you say, and that you have, a life as well. And you almost forget how to go back or to find your identity in it when it's over. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it really, really is. And, my heart goes out because it's these people who have huge hearts who want to help that end up getting in this situation or are just thrust into the situation. But it's because they love so deeply and want to help so much that they end up pretty much losing themselves in the process. And I feel like, like you just said, like you don't know where to turn and you're overwhelmed and you don't know if you have time to do that. Or, I
Yeah.
thought when you gave that example earlier of the friend who wanted to take you out to see Christmas lights, what I thought you were going to say was that I don't have time to do that. Like I can't leave him by himself. Like I can't, because that's what I hear people saying, like, oh, I can't
Mhm.
do that. Like I just can't.
Yeah.
But you
Well,
did.
and I mean, this was after he had passed. So, yeah, probably had it been while I was caretaking, I mean, it was hard to leave him. And I would have to have somebody else come and kind of watch while I was gone. So I did take some time and do some golfing like once a week or whatever because I knew I needed to get away, but it was hard to do. And you feel a little guilty,
Gonna say
about
that,
it.
yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you could address that because I know that that's a piece of it, that the guilt of you're being pulled because that's your role, that's your responsibility. How can I be so selfish and do something for myself when this person needs me?
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't want anyone else. That was kind of how my husband was. He wanted me to be there. And so it was hard to, take that time and have someone else. And he was nervous about it. Right. So, yeah, it's a tricky role. And I just remember thinking, there's nothing here for me. Like, there's nothing here for a caretaker. I'm not seeing it. So I'm just so delighted to hear that you're working with people. That's so wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a gift, part of this. My whole journey has been traumatic, and people have said they don't know how I have survived it or how I'm still doing what I'm doing. And I now see it as a gift. Like to me, it is a gift that I have been given to be able to use what I've been through to help other people and to pass it along. And it almost brings me to tears. It makes me emotional because I can choose to see it that way now. I truly feel like it's a gift that I've been given to help other people. And I really am just so, so grateful.
Yeah. Well, how could we be compassionate towards someone? I mean, until you've walked that fire yourself, it's hard to really be able to relate to someone who's gone through. Like, I know myself, I could never have related to someone who lost their spouse. I could never really understand that process or that grief had I not gone through it myself. And so, yes, it is a gift in that way because now you've got the capacity and the knowledge to be able to give someone else a hands up with something that you maybe, you saw in your husband that he couldn't, he had no support for. Now you're able to provide it. It's amazing.
Mm, yeah. Oh, I love that perspective. I really love, part of my hashtag is authentically Amy, and I love sharing just authentically things that I'm going through in ways that I'm struggling because I
Mhm.
want to normalize talking about being real, not trying to pretend like we're okay, not trying to pretend like everything is fine. Not that I expect everybody to share on social media the way I do, but
Mhm.
someone said to me, how do you know if someone's not okay unless they tell you that they're not okay? And I said, "Oh, that's really good, because people go around saying, I'm good, I'm fine. How are you? I'm good, I'm fine, you know. But what would happen if you said, How are you? And somebody said, I'm really struggling right now. And like
Mhm.
it's just a shift, just a few words shifted, but I mean, how you could get the help that you needed, or some collaboration, or even some support, just
Mhm.
by shifting a few words and just being honest. And that's part of my mission in doing what I'm doing is serving as a permission slip so that other people can do this too, and knowing that it's not the end of the world, that it actually is helpful, and that I know I not only serve as a permission slip, but you do too. Everyone
Mhm.
serves as a permission slip. People are watching. People are watching you, and you are giving them permission to do or not do things that they see you doing. And I have chosen to use that in a way that helps others.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Because you're giving permission to for people to be themselves. And when you're authentic, then they can be authentic too, and they don't have to be afraid of that. And I know when people say, something about, well, I'm not good, some people struggle with holding space for that. And so you've got to find the people that can hold that space for you. And I know in grief, a lot of widows talk about that. A lot of their good friends will turn the other way because they just don't know what to say or what to do. Right. And so they feel really lonely in that. And so somebody providing a space for people to go to be able to express that is really important.
It really is, because so often just saying it out loud, saying the words out loud, sometimes that's really what the body needs, is to
Yeah.
just express it aloud to anyone who's willing to listen and not tell you that you're insane, or that you should be getting over it, or that you're crazy for still grieving. Grief has no timetable, that, but I think people don't really understand that because society pushes them to, you should be over this by now. Why are you still sad? You should be getting on with your life. And it doesn't work that way. It's different for everyone.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to be acknowledged where you are in your grief. For people to say, you should be over it, you need to get out, you need to move on, that's really probably not what people need to hear.
Right.
Like, I want to be acknowledged for where I am. And so if I say that I'm sad and I'm missing my husband, I want somebody to acknowledge me in that. I mean, I'm not saying that you stay in that and you wallow in that because that's a whole nother thing.
Sure.
But there are moments where, you struggle with it comes out of nowhere. It can be, call them triggers. I don't know if that's the greatest word. Just when that wave comes in, you don't know that that's coming and you have no idea why sometimes that's coming in. And for people to be able to acknowledge you in that space and say, you know what, I understand, or maybe I don't understand, but I'm here for you regardless. Yeah.
It is so important to have someone that you trust, that is going to accept that where you are and not
try to force you to be further along in your journey. Yeah, that is so good. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. Gosh.
Mhm.
Oh, I could talk about this forever. I feel like, there's so much that needs to be shared on this topic. And I have a friend who is a grief and resilience expert. And so we have had conversations like this too. And I think because I had a mental health crisis. Like I spent a week in a mental health hospital and I started talking about it openly on my social media. I was ashamed. I was fearful of what my audience would think because my reputation and my career was built on resilience and being strong and pushing through. And here I was
Mhm.
falling apart behind the scenes and afraid to say anything. But when I began talking about it openly, I was fearful of the way my audience would respond. But the exact opposite happened. People began surrounding me and supporting me and saying, me too, me too. I've been there. I don't talk about it because nobody's talking about it. I'm ashamed to talk about it. You're talking about it. Keep talking about it. And
Yeah.
so I feel like the more we normalize talking about it and that you're not the only one that's dealing with this, like you're not alone. There are so many people dealing with these things in the world. And the more we're talking about them, the better it's going to be for all of humanity.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just so, so grateful that you were willing to come on here and talk about it. I would love for you to share more about what you do, what you offer, maybe how people can reach you.
Sure. So the best place to go is my website, which is healingenergy.world. And so there you will find links to my book. It's available in print and also on Audible. And I also have a podcast myself that you can find there. Um, and I offer sessions for people. I'm a certified grief coach, and so you can book sessions with me. I also do angel readings, and
Love
my
that.
partner and I actually, he's a medium and a channel. And so
Oh,
he
wow.
does the messages and I do the coaching. And so that can be really powerful as well if people are looking for some support. And then I also have a support group, and it's free for anyone to come. It happens every 10 days. You just have to sign up, and then I can send you the information about when it's happening. But I've got a core group of people there that have been with me for, well, 3 years now. And
Wow.
they have all kinds of experience and advice, and they share resources. And so we love having people come and join us. And we're just like a big family, happy family. So if anyone wants to pop in and check that out, I also keep notes from that meeting, and I have them on my website. So if you want to see what we talk about and see if it would be a fit for you, then you can check out those notes and see. And there's all the resources are there. So you can check those out and see if they would be helpful to you as well.
I love the idea of keeping the notes on there. Like that's such a
Yeah.
great idea. You just
Yeah,
pop
there's
in there and check it out, and that's
yeah.
so good. What is the name of your book?
It is Awakening Through Grief. And it is the story of losing my husband. And because I was an educator, there are exercises there, journal prompts. I do a lot of work with Donna Eden. She was an energy medicine practitioner. And so I put a lot of her really practical exercises in there for you to try. And anything that helped me, I put it in the book. And I keep thinking, you know what? If one person finds something that's helpful to them, then my job is done. So,
Exactly.
yeah. And it's very cathartic to write your story. And I think that it was helpful for me to do that too. Yeah.
So true. So true. I love that. I could go off on that, but I want to be respectful of your time. And then tell us the name of your podcast.
It is Awaken Your Soul's Journey.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. So, and I interview all kinds of people who have transformed their lives through grief. So, um, it'll probably, well, it's getting really close to 100 people now. And each time, the story is this story of challenge and heartbreak, but then they find a way, right? And they find meaning and purpose, and they find joy again. And so my whole mission is to give people hope and inspiration. And so those podcast interviews are all about that.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. That's, my mission too, is to just spread hope and joy and help people understand. I firmly believe that people came here knowing who they are and what their mission, their purpose was on this earth. But well-meaning people in our lives convince us otherwise, and that it's
Yes.
just basically a remembering, that we just go back and remember who we really are beneath all the noise and expectations. And I love that you're doing that. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. I will put all of the links to all of your things in the show notes so that those of you watching and listening can find those easily, and you can just click on that and connect with Angela there. So, thank you so much. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we wrap it up here?
I guess the only thing that I always add is that, I felt like people were telling me that you will grieve for a lifetime, and that you will learn to carry it. And I just want people to understand that there can be joy and fulfillment again. You don't have to have that heavy, dark cloud with you all the time. And you really need to understand that there's a whole definition of grief. And that's what I go through in my book, is explaining what that is about when people say you will grieve for a lifetime. And I caution people, saying that, because it's disheartening, right? It's like, okay, well, I guess this is the way I'm going to be for,
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. And that's just not true. And so it's the book is all about that. So check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned my friend who's a grief and resilience expert. She uses this example, and it's just so profound to me, that grief is like a round ball inside a square box, where the sides of the ball are touching every side of the square. Like it's barely fitting in there. But that as time goes on, the square begins to expand and the ball begins to roll around, and it touches the sides sometimes, it's still touching, but the square keeps expanding until the ball touches the side less and less and less. And I thought, that's so good. I love that.
Yeah.
Really powerful. Well, thank you again for being here. I'm just so honored to have been able to hold space for you and to be able to share your message with the world. I'm definitely going to check out your book and all of your things. It sounds so exciting to me. For those of you watching and listening, thank you again for tuning in and tagging along. Please share this so that we can get this message out to more people. And until next time, I will be here holding space for you.
Thank you for being here. And to my guest, thank you for your honesty, your courage, and your truth. It's an honor to hold space for people like you. If something in this episode stirred something in you, if you breathed deeper, softened, or felt a pull inward, consider this your invitation. Whether you're ready to share publicly or prefer to remain anonymous, I'd love to hold space for you too. This work isn't just for podcasts, it's for people everywhere. And I'm bringing it into businesses, schools, communities, organizations, anywhere humans need a place to be and for someone to hold space for them. To learn more or to schedule your own session or to be a guest on this podcast, visit www.getamyshelp.com or just reach out to me. I'll meet you with open arms and a quiet, sacred seat. Until next time, thank you for being beautifully, unapologetically human.